Did you hear that? Okay.
Yeah. We don't need to though. It's not for us.
Sound.
You'll get the hang of these claps one day.
I don't know. I just like to do it to annoy you. Like I do it honestly because I know that you're thinking this fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like
And I'm
I'm
right.
not an idiot. I fully know what the clap's for. But every episode I have asked, and I will continue to ask.
It's a fucking wind-up merchant, mate.
Okay. Can we get started so I don't have to spend longer with you guys than I need to?
Okay.
Imagine, right, so we're a fucking team together, yeah? We've built this dynasty, and he fucking hates spending any more than 10 minutes with me and you.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
You can't blame me, can you? Right, well, we are here today doing the second of our off-topic episodes where we talk about anything other than, the art world and what it's like to be an artist online. So we put a vote out to the people that follow us on Twitter. We each picked a topic. Callie picked PC or political correctness in comedy shows. I wanted to know what we'd all ban, if we could ban anything. And Carl said, what was the best sport after football? And the winner, with 44.3% of the votes, was what's the best sport after football? So since it was his topic, I reckon we'll hand it over to Carl to put his case forward. We're just going to pick a sport, make a case for it, debate it, and then anybody watching this or anybody who sees this online, let us know in the comments which one you agree with.
All right, so for me, there's the way I thought about this is two different perspectives. One for me is playing a sport, and the other is kind of watching it for an entertainment value. And I would say, in terms of entertainment and watching, it would be Formula One. At the moment, I'm really into it. There's a lot of drama. I know a lot of people just think it's a load of cars going round and round, and not much happens. But I just know there's something really endearing for me, and just the challenge is just to watch people drive. I drive a car, and at the best times, I don't know if I do all right at that, but to manage to drive at 200 mile an hour or beyond, nearly 300 mile an hour corners, I just think it's phenomenal. I just think it's absolutely phenomenal to be able to do that, to concentrate for that level of speed for, what is it? I think it's 2 hours they go round and round the track for. And also to have the ability not that it happens all the time, but to crash into each other when they're sort of passing as close as possible.
Let's be honest, that's the best bit.
Well, maybe it is for you, but I mean, I just think I think it's the talent. I think it's the talent of being able to do that. That's not something I could do. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think it's a talent? Driving?
Yeah. I absolutely. At that speed, I think it is, to be able to corner, to be able to do things at a ridiculous amount of speed. I think it is.
Do you mean the difference between talent and skill, Callie, or do you mean do you think anyone could do it?
I mean, anyone given the right amount of training could probably be an F1 driver and resources.
I would say that with any sport, though, or anything in life, really. There's with the correct. Listen, you might not be able to, you might not reach Lewis Hamilton's level, but you'd be able to do it at a certain point. Same with any sport. Tennis, you might not reach Roger Federer's level, but you'd be able to maybe get into, play a major tournament.
I think what it is, it's talented spatial awareness and reflexes, isn't it? That's what the talent is. You're not talented at driving.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like football. You're not talented at playing football because football doesn't exist. It's a man-made game. You're talented at passing, moving, and seeing the spaces, and it's probably the same with F1. That coordination is the talent, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you're probably born with an exceptionally high spatial awareness and coordination about your brain.
Reactions and all those types of things.
So I think the top F1 drivers, that's probably where the talent is, for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, the only sort of downside to it is that there's only ever really a couple of teams who've got the best
Yeah.
cars because they got the money pumped in. And
That is not the only downside of F1. It's
me,
about
for me,
a month long. You have to commit like a weekend to watching it.
yeah, well, yeah, I suppose
It's
so. If you're
madness.
if you're doing the practice sessions and the qualifying and the race, yeah, it's a whole weekend.
How long does the race last?
2 hours. It's not allowed. There's a 2 hour limit, so yeah, the race has to be completed within 2 hours. You know, sometimes they get so they might have a safety car where there's a big crash. Sometimes the clock will beat the lap time. So normally it depends on how long each track is different. Some of them are 1 minute 30 to get around. Average of 1 minute 30. Some are shorter, some are longer. So that will depend on how many laps there are. So the shorter time it takes to get around the 75 laps, and obviously longer, 55 or something like that. But yeah, that's my only downside is that there's generally the team. I do think that the cars, the teams with the better mechanics are going to have the better cars, obviously, and that's normally reflected by when the drivers move from one team to another. However, that being said, sometimes you do have drivers who move across and they're in the same car as their teammate, but they can never perform at the level of their teammate. So I don't know whether that can be team orders, or it could just be the fact that they're just not as good.
So will you watch a full race?
Yeah.
On TV?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you'll be drawing on Untitled Outfit projects whilst you're doing that.
Absolutely.
Just 2 hours of nothing else but F1.
Yeah. Sometimes I watch the qualifying as well.
So I don't really understand it as much as what I could, because I only really started paying attention to it when I watched that Drive to Survive on Netflix, which is fucking incredible. An incredible documentary. But the whole weekend, there's 2 races, isn't there? Or 3 races. There's the pole position races and then
so
the main races.
The whole weekend on the Friday, generally Friday's practice sessions, so they've got 3 practice sessions.
And will you watch them?
No, I don't watch practice sessions. I'll watch qualifying if I can, but I don't always watch it. And to be honest with you, I'll watch the race if I can. Look, again, football in my house, football is king, and I'm only really allowed to watch one sport, so if I'm allowed to watch 2.
Why?
Because I've got a missus and kid, mate, and when exactly that reason. When you grow up, and
that's
you
the
get
good
into
thing
the
about
same
living
position,
on your own.
mate.
You can watch as many fucking sports as you want.
There are rules. To be fair, my missus is pretty cool, but I just can't be stuck indoors all day watching sport. I've got to go out with the little ones and whatever else. But yes, I'll watch the race if I can. Those are my reasons. The other one I was going to say, just from a playing perspective, is probably tennis.
You're not allowed 2.
No.
Right,
It's not 2.
Why not? I did split it up. All right.
Because it's not the Carl Thayer hour.
What I
did win. I don't know why you're two even fucking here. Should be just me.
What I do want to know though,
Because we want people to watch, mate.
Oh, all right.
What I do want to.
Someone got out of bed this morning and chose violence.
Every fucking morning, Yoni chooses violence.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's the only way to keep you 2 in line.
Yeah. I want to know, out of the 2 hours you watch a F1 race, how many actual minutes of that race are you proper fully engaged? Like, oh my god, something's happening. I.e., in football, out of the 90 minutes, only 20 is actually goal scoring chances and goals. Everything else is throw-ins, corners, stop-start, shit.
I'd say the start for sure. The first corner is always like
that's a good time to be engaged watching.
Yeah,
when it first starts.
The first corner is
first
pretty
2
intense.
seconds.
I like to see when the strategy teams, because teams have different strategies, so when they do their pit stops and stuff, and whether they sort of whether they undercut, or whatever to get in the lead.
They take the bolts out the wrong way.
You know what the funny? Well, yeah, there is that. Put the wheel on, take too long. But the funny thing is, actually, the end of the race is probably the least exciting part, because in general,
whoever's already miles ahead.
Yeah. Like 3 laps to go, someone's probably could be potentially 15 seconds ahead. So you can't, unless there's a major problem. I think was it last year where Lewis
the last
Hamilton,
race of the season.
No, not that one. Yeah, not that one. But there was a race where Lewis Hamilton, I think he had one lap to go and he got a puncher, and he was in the
Oh,
lead, and he continued to rate. Obviously, he was going, and Verstappen was catching him, but he still managed. He had enough of a lead to still win the race. So, yeah, in general, that's kind of. And if there's a safety car as well, safety car is another interesting point because it just any hard work that you've just fucking done the last 45 laps can just go to shit, as the end of last year was proven. But we won't talk about that because that was a fucking robbery.
do you watch MotoGP?
No, just Formula One. It's the only one. I've watched a little bit of the. I watched a little bit of the women's, to be fair, because it's on at the same time. It's on just before the men's. And I think it's Jamie Chapman. Chapman. She's unreal. But yeah,
I watch more MotoGP because it's more competitive.
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
feel like it's almost impossible to take over at times in F1. I mean, it happens, but it's this much of the sport. Whereas in MotoGP, that's one.
Yeah.
They're like fucking like that on the bikes.
Yeah. I mean, there is an argument to say, is it actually a sport because it's not a physical. Well, it is physically demanding. I know it is because they say, but in terms of sort of.
Yeah, that neck movement. I was watching
physical
Hamilton on a
exertion.
documentary talking about he'll like 600 pounds of weight he'll move from side to side during a race, which is ridiculous.
Didn't he say he could lose up to 5 kilos as well at the end of
Lose
the
up
race
to
or something?
5 kilos.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like
Because he called himself
insane.
an athlete.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, you're not an athlete. And then after watching that documentary, I was like, okay, you're an athlete.
Yeah, it's because you might have a certain amount of weight, isn't it? You can't get into the car.
And like just
it could kill the
having
whole
to
race.
do that like for
Yeah.
however meant that's actually what it looks like on the documentary, doesn't it?
And I did what I find even more difficult for drivers now that they've got this halo, which is obviously important because it can save their life. But
Yeah.
they've got this fucking thing just sitting in the
In the
front of
middle.
their view.
Yeah,
And
you'd think they'd like come up that way and then it'd be there, wouldn't you? Like so you can see the face.
Yeah, which is and to be able to do 300 miles an hour with this thing just right. Man. Anyway, I've done enough talking. I've said my part. I'll allow one of you to take over and tell me what you think is the best sport.
I think we can all agree that the only thing worse than watching F1 is listening to Carl talk about it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I was going to say, I think we should say whether we think it's a good sport after they've said it as well. Yanni, what's your opinion on F1?
I think there's obviously like some really great moments like there is in pretty much any sport, but it's far too long for me. I just don't know like how it can. I think there's a lot of sports like this. I just don't know. Like barely anything happens for about 90 minutes of a race,
It's just
which
the
just
same
seems
positions, the same speed.
yeah. It's but like I think that of a lot of I guess car racing sports. Like I've seen NASCAR before when I've been in the States, and that's just like that's worse because they're literally just going around in a fucking
Round and
circle.
round, yeah.
It's just madness.
I think with that though is that it's because people have this. They will concentrate on the who's leading the race, and yeah, there might not be a lot going on up top, but in the midfield, people are changing all the time, and I think it's just that everybody concentrates on the leaders of the race. So yeah, okay, the faster cars have probably got away. There's probably a gap, but once you get some sort of like maybe 6 down to, 12 or even further down, there's always mini battles between lesser teams. So there's always something to watch if you're interested.
I think if you just watch the races, you'll find it difficult to be entertained unless you're really into cars.
Yeah.
Or unless you've studied it and you've watched it for years. It's only documentaries like Drive to Survive where you can actually appreciate the strategic sides, the lower teams, the partnerships between the two same drivers on the same team, all of those politics and everything. That's what made me think I'm going to start watching F1. And do you know how many minutes of F1 I've watched since I watched the documentary?
About 10.
0. Big bagel.
0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 hours.
It's fine. Each to their own.
And it's just because, like Yori said, I need entertainment.
That's a bit like me after watching one of your TikToks. All right, who's next?
Yoni?
Yeah, I can go next.
Go for
So I have both spent a lot of time and not much time thinking about this. I hadn't committed to a sport until moments ago because I was trying to think, if we're talking about like what's the best sport besides football, I kind of want to say something that I don't think does any of the things football does. So like probably my second favorite sport is actually basketball, but it's, you know, it is in a lot of ways it's very similar. And then you've got other sports that I think are really good. You know, I think cricket can be really entertaining. I used to love playing badminton. But I have decided to go with what I think is definitely a sport. In
Good. Fucking hell, you've hit the basic level of understanding of this game.
I am going with professional wrestling.
Oh, fuck off, Yori. Fuck off.
That's what I'm going with.
That's entertainment. That's not sport.
It's called. Firstly, it's called sports entertainment. Secondly, it's very entertaining.
It's not competitive.
They're definitely athletes. They're definitely athletes.
I'd agree with that.
What's the difference between it and like gymnastics?
So
it's not competitive.
It's because it's fixed.
So?
That's what
and
it
gymnastics
is.
Are competing against each other.
Are we talking about WWE? Is that classed as professional pro wrestling? Then
you're gonna have to pick another one.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. He can go with it if it entertains him.
It's got to be a sport, though.
Yeah, but it is.
I'm saying it is a sport.
It's fucking not a sport.
No, it's definitely a sport.
No, I agree.
Definitely a sport.
I think it is a sport. No, it's a sport, but it's not a competitive sport. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
sure.
Because you have to be an athlete. You have to be an athlete to be a wrestler. You have to be an athlete.
Athletics isn't sport, though.
Athletics is sport. What are you talking about? What sports day then?
Saying that it's competitive. But
that's what I said.
WWE's not.
It's a sport. Yeah, it's a sport, but
it's competitive.
Name one more non-competitive sport in the world.
You can't be right. The matches might be fixed, but you don't get to be the champion if you're shit.
Might?
No. I don't think you understand how the English language works. That's how you say the word might in that context.
Okay.
You've obviously got paint in your ears.
Okay, name one other non-competitive sport.
I don't have to.
Because one doesn't exist, because sport, by definition, is competitive.
It is competitive.
It's not, it's fit.
You have to be good at it to be the champion. You still have to be good.
That's not competitive. It's written in the script.
No, all right, but it appears competitive. That's the point.
Fucking hell.
Like, listen. I'm not, for me, wrestling. Like, maybe when I was 10, I used to be into it, and then I found out it was fake, and it just killed everything.
Listen, I love wrestling, love it, but it's not a sport.
I'm willing to let you have that one, Yoni.
It's definitely a sport.
The people on social media or in the comments, you need to tell us if you think it's a sport. For me, the definition of sport is that it's competitive.
Right, let's go to the BBC website and see if it's in the sports section.
It's not a sport.
It's definitely a sport.
Fuck the BBC and everything you stand for, BBC.
Yeah, it's not in the sports section. Oh, hang on.
Isn't it?
Hang on. Full. There's a full thing. Let me see.
Check the drama section.
It is. It's there.
It definitely is.
It's there. It's under wrestling.
Let's do another vote on Twitter.
It is.
Is it a sport?
No, but
or
anyway.
Hang on. The point is,
the
wrestling's at the Olympics, right?
Wrestling is.
But that's amateur wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Because once you finish being an amateur, you then ascend to the levels of a professional wrestler.
You can't even say it with a straight face.
I'm just laughing at because I know how narrow-minded you are.
Okay, why? Tell us why.
Because it is ridiculously entertaining, and that's what I want. That's what I want. I want interesting characters. I want drama, and I want to be entertained. And I don't think any sport, probably outside of the ones I mentioned before in football and basketball, has given us more iconic, entertaining characters than wrestling in the past couple of decades.
Fair enough. I get what you're saying. I mean, I get
a lot more from 2 hours of WWE than I do from 2 hours of F1.
I bet you do.
That's all personal preference, though, isn't it? That's the whole point.
Who's your favourite wrestler
of all time?
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior. I bet.
What?
No, that's
a terrible choice.
I was guessing.
I mean, probably The Rock.
Yeah. I think Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I think he's
Do you know what?
fucking awesome.
I didn't expect Yoni to go with the stereotypical best wrestler / The Rock. He's everyone's choice, isn't he? I expect him to go with like
he
an
was
obscure.
amazing.
I thought he was going to go with like an obscure, fucking like
Thought you might
X-Pac.
have. We might have chosen. What about the Undertaker? You a fan of the Undertaker?
I was
Yeah, of
just
course, man.
shit scared of the Undertaker when I was a kid. Still don't like him.
I was scared of Kane as a kid
Yeah.
when he entered.
When he took
I
his
loved
mask
it as a
off,
kid.
showed
Like,
his
I
shit
legitimately thought it was real.
Yeah, so did I, man.
I can't remember what Christmas it was. I got WWE Bad Blood in Your House 13, which was the Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, where Kane first appeared, and I was like, oh my god, that's his brother. He was in the house that got set on fire. I was like, it's so real.
I thought that the Undertaker really died and really came back to life in that.
Yeah,
coffin.
me absolutely.
I was like, oh my god.
But that's what you call entertainment, I guess.
Sports entertainment, for clarity.
Sorry, sports entertainment.
entertainment.
Sports entertainment. So, that's the official
And
definition.
as Carl has quite rightly said, it is covered by BBC Sport. So
There we go. I
you
stand corrected. I still want to know what people think though. For me, sports entertainment, yeah. Sport, no.
Yeah, for me, I think it is a sport, but it's just not one. Because it's scripted, I can't enjoy it anymore. Like, as a kid, I did love it. I loved it as well, as much. The only thing is, I think there's only one person I knew who used to have to have Sky TV because you have to watch it on fucking Sky.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you have to go around to his house and watch it, or watch it, the video, whenever they recorded it, whatever. So, yeah, I'm happy to accept it as a sport. All right. Callie?
I'm going to drop a bit of a bomb. My favourite sport, other than football, not after football, is UFC.
Yeah, but that's not really a bomb, is it, to be fair?
It is because it's better than football. And I'll
You
tell
think it's better than football?
oh, sorry, right,
I see.
right, okay.
And I'll tell you for why. It's better than football, pound for pound, second by second in terms of entertainment. Meaning that I'll watch a 90-minute football match, even if it's Liverpool in the Champions League final, and out of that match there'll be 20 minutes of oh my god, the rest will just be like, oh, throw in, oh, free kick. Whereas UFC, from the second that bell rings to either them getting knocked unconscious or to the last round, it is like, oh my god, what the fuck's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Is he gonna get head kicked? Oh my god, oh, he swung his head. Like, second for second, pound for pound, it's the most entertainment thing to watch. Like, where you're just on the edge of your seat consistently. And it's a fight. It's a fight. Like, imagine someone had a fight. Like, if someone's having a fight in Tesco, or someone's doing kick-ups in Tesco, which one are you going to watch?
I know which one I'd think less of.
Yeah, well, there you go, but you'd still watch it. You'd still watch it.
Can I just get some clarity though? You're talking about MMA, really. You're not talking about UFC.
I'm talking about MMA.
Yeah.
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
But UFC is the fucking Premier League. It's the
but
Champions
UFC
League of MMA.
But UFC isn't a sport, so we have to take MMA as a whole.
Yeah.
Of which I
Mixed
think there is
martial
a
arts.
lot of absolute shite.
There is in every sport.
Well, that's true. Yeah, fair enough.
That's not native to MMA. But yeah, it's just, and it's better than boxing. And people will be like, oh, it's just, boxing's just very tactical, very like, again, you could go 3 rounds of just jabs in boxing. In MMA, that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Like, even if they're on the floor together and they're doing jiu-jitsu moves, that can be boring for some people. But the level of consequence when you're in those positions on the ground, like any second, they can be choked unconscious. So like, you're still watching them grapple like, fuck, he's got his leg, oh my god. So just pound for pound for me, MMA is and I actually watch more of it than football. Like when I watch football now, it's only Liverpool games that I watch 90 minutes of. And then the rest I watch highlights. I don't even watch Match of the Day anymore. That's how much maybe that's because City and Liverpool are the only two teams worth giving a shit about in the Prem. But I won't watch fucking Everton versus fucking Crystal Palace. I'm not going to watch that game, but I'll watch the prelims in the UFC. I'll watch every fight on the undercard just simply because it's just so entertaining. It doesn't matter who's fighting.
But they're a lot shorter as well.
They're a lot shorter. They are, well, yeah, they're about...
They're not 90 minutes of football.
25 minutes, 5 rounds is the longest ones. But you watch 10 fights. I'll watch 10 fights in an afternoon. So it's still... I mean,
it's a fair point, but, you know, the only other thing I'd say to counter that is that if out of those 10 fights, 7 of them are knockouts.
Yeah.
They could have been over in less than, the first round. But listen, I agree with you.
That's still, like, a knockout is what you want. Like,
that's what you're looking to see, isn't it?
Highlight reel. Do you know what I mean? Like, a knockout in UFC, which happen all the time, is like a Gerrard 30-yard screamer.
Yeah.
Like, it's the equivalent of that, and that happens almost every fight in the UFC. So
I'd watch more of it if it wasn't on a stupid o'clock. That's my only thing. When it was UFC London, and I watched all of it. It was great. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. The only fight I didn't like was the last one. The last one, which was
he got injured. That's why, didn't he?
Was it the last one or the one before the last one? No,
before the last one was Paddy, I think.
No,
there was a fight in between. Yeah,
and that was.
It was just a bit like just point scoring with the distance, didn't it?
Wasn't he meant to fight Darren Till and then he
that's
pulled
right,
out last minute and he had a replacement? Yeah, that
fight
I was just like, all right, this is.
Them fights usually are quite neutral because they haven't prepared for that fighter.
Yeah.
So when they step in last minute, it's dead cagey because they don't really know what to expect. Yeah. But it's still fucking like, Jesus.
But yeah, I would 100% watch more of it. Again, it's just that most of it is generally it's like I'm a big fan of boxing, and I'd watch a Canelo fight or whatever. But when it's at 3-4 in the morning, like
UFC actually isn't. It's on like I get up every time it's on. I get up at 5 a.m. and the main card starts at 5:30. It's on BT Sport, and I'm up at 6 o'clock most days anyway. So it's only like an extra hour out the day.
You go to bed at 8 o'clock in the evening, so
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's not that much difference time wise, and you can rewatch them all.
No, I know that.
Sport, do you know what I mean? You can watch them anytime.
I think because I guess we're kind of debating because your opinion is that it's better than football. I think one thing it's lacking for me, and I would say like you won't agree, but I'm coming at this from like a mainstream audience member, whereas you're like obviously quite a big fan of MMA and UFC specifically. I think a lot like boxing was. I mean, actually, like boxing pretty much has been really for like 20 years. I think it's at the heavyweight level anyway. I think it's just missing some stars. I think UFC is a little bit boring at the moment because the characters aren't as interesting. Yeah. I think it's a far cry from the peak Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey era where it felt like it had proper mainstream crossover, and a little bit like boxing has had again in the past couple of years since Tyson Fury's really made a character out of himself since he came back. But I think that's one of the things, like the reason why I haven't paid much attention to it, because I am like a fair weather fan of pretty much any sport going. Yeah. When something big's going on, I'll get into it and learn about it. But I think it's there are some people that are obviously very much on the up, but I think it's lacking a little bit in superstar quality.
I don't disagree with that, but I know why it happens. It's because UFC promotes the fights. There's no external promotion. Yeah. Therefore, there's no external expertise in promoting one star over another. They have been given the ability to promote themselves now, like i.e. Paddy the Baddy. He's got his own Twitch streams, he's got his vlog on YouTube. Sean O'Malley with the big crazy hair. They are coming through since Conor McGregor came along, but it's the machine that has been limiting them to do that. And also, in boxing, all the promotions towards who's unbeaten, that's like a big promotional tool for them, and that's why you get the stars. Oh my god, he's not being beat for 14 fights. That's like the main promotion. Whereas UFC, they fight anyone. So if you're ranked number 2, you will fight number 1, and then the winner will fight the champ. Like, and that is constantly turning over. So
Yeah.
the time it takes to promote one person over another in terms of star quality is difficult. So that's probably why it happens. But for me, it's just a pure sport aspect.
I do always struggle with both boxing and MMA in the same way that, like, I kind of don't like a sport that can be over in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Spend a load of money, fly out somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like back in the I suppose it's still now, isn't it? But I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, like, there'd always be someone's house to go round to who'd got the boxing on Sky Box Office.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a whole night made out of it. Even like, you know, when I was like a teenager, like, you'd go around and somebody would have like Tyson Holyfield on, and they've spent loads on food and drink, and then sometimes it'd just be like, oh well, that was shit, it's over now.
Yeah.
Do you know what another factor is? It's not worldwide as much as the other sports.
Very heavily like US still, isn't it?
I think there's just the timing because all the fights are there. But they do events in different, like Stockholm and Dublin and things like that.
Isn't there an issue with how much they get paid as opposed to boxing?
Well,
of the fighters,
because they're all under contract with
UFC,
aren't they? Like, they're not. Okay. Whereas obviously with boxing, every boxer is with like different promoters.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, they're not even allowed their own sports sponsorships.
Yeah.
Because UFC is sponsored by Reebok.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's so many factors in it. Like, it's just because it's compared to boxing. That's the only issue people have got with it. But like, say a fighter gets like whatever they make, like standard for a fight, and then they get a bonus for like fight of the night. They'll get 50 grand on top. Whatever they take home compared to what the company's earned is really small. But across industries, you'd have to compare it. Like, for example, I used to work at BT. I got paid, at BT, there was 1.5 billion in profits last year. I got paid like 40 grand.
Yeah.
So comparatively to that type of thing, I know they're risking lives, it's completely different.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was going to say.
It just depends who you compare it
to. Who are you? Like, to draw the analogy more clearly, who are you in UFC right now in BT?
But in the UFC, how many days a week will they work? How many days a year will they work for that money? They say they have 4 fights, they might earn £1 million that year, comparatively to the UFC. I'll work every single day, take 40 grand out of a 1.5 billion profit a year. Just looking at finances alone,
I've really lost sight of the point we're making.
I'm just saying, comparatively in other industries, it's probably not different to pay them.
I know what you mean. It's because they compare it to boxing.
Like, why compare it to boxing? You might as well compare it to working down the shop.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's only the level of consequence.
Sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, with it being a combat sport, they should be paid more. I hope they do, and they should. But it's all politics, and the reason boxing outdoes it is because it's eyes. Boxing's still got the eyes and the promotion.
I know.
It's more longevity, isn't it? It's been around for a lot longer, and
there's too many people.
But most boxers are like, boxing is still, compared to like the absolute heyday of the 90s, boxing is shit.
Yeah, I don't watch it anymore, unless there's a big fight.
Like, you think about like how many legitimately all-time great heavyweight fighters, because ultimately, like, I realise every so often you've got your Pacquiaos and your Mayweathers, but heavyweight boxing is really always been the draw.
It's like the 100-meter sprint, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so many all-time great heavyweights from the 80s through the 90s, and it's just been shit for like 25 years.
I think that's because a lot more people are getting into MMA over boxing. Maybe. So, you know, if you're a fighter, you get into MMA these days, and that I know that it's bigger in America than boxing is, isn't it? They don't really have any. America don't have a huge load of boxing stars anymore. Because most of them are in
Yeah, that's
UFC.
true.
I struggle to name them worldwide, if I'm honest. Like, you got your Lomachenkos and people like that, but they're just the stars in each weight category. But other than the champ, Rigondeaux, other than the champs, I can't really name.
Yeah.
Whereas UFC, I can name like probably every weight category, the top 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I
Fair
mean?
enough.
So, but and I used to love boxing.
Still not better than Formula One, though, but, you know, we're just there.
Oh, mate. If the Formula One just turned into a big grudge match and started smashing each other.
I nearly did last
I
year.
think,
Yeah, but
I think
that's
it's
what
just
you want to see.
interesting. It's interesting that me and Callie both picked two legitimate combat sports.
Yeah.
Legitimate, yeah.
Well,
Legitimate,
I was gonna say
genuine
to you,
combat. There's not a gold medal for MMA.
Yeah, I'll give you that. There's just a
And
belt.
Brock Lesnar was champ in UFC, wasn't he?
Yeah, for like a week.
He was still champ, mate.
Yeah, he was heavyweight champ.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Ronda
difficult.
Rousey's over in WWE.
Yeah, she is now.
Even Tyson Fury's had a bit of WWE, isn't he?
Yeah, I think.
But then so's Logan Paul.
Logan Paul's signed, isn't he?
Mate, honestly,
he's
he's
really
had
good.
He's had
really
two
good.
matches. He was fucking sick.
He's
Yeah,
good.
he's really
He's,
good.
he's,
Yeah.
like, he's really athletic. He's young.
Yeah,
he
he is.
understands the crowd. He understands the camera and stuff.
Yeah. The only
And,
difficult thing is, I think he's pretty universally hated.
Isn't
Even
that
people
mad?
that like him, I don't think people
that's-
people really like him. But he's being presented as a good guy.
And that's exactly why him and his brother can bring in so many people, because people want to, whether
Yeah.
you like him, you want into him, or you want to see him get his face smashed in. It's one of the two.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
yeah.
you're tuning in. Do you know what I mean? So you get the haters and the people who love you. All
I think
watching at
his
the same
brother
time.
actually makes him look very palatable. His
Yeah,
I
brother is
agree.
an absolute knobhead.
Jake's a dickhead.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
do you know what
Completely.
this is what I find about these people, right? I feel like their character is what people hate. Like, I don't for 1 minute believe Jake Paul is the way he is on camera all the time. Like, I'm sure.
I think he is.
Do you
now,
think? I just don't think
yeah.
it's sustainable to live that type of like
I used to think the same
confrontational thing.
until he was like, he thinks he's a legitimate boxer.
But he's fighting legitimately.
But he's not fighting a legit. He hasn't fought a legitimate boxer yet, has he?
Yeah,
No.
but he
The whole
fought
point.
Tyron Woodley and knocked fuck out of him. And Tyron Woodley was a
Yeah.
UFC champion. And
I still think that
veteran.
was a bit dodge. But I mean, listen, you know, if at the end of the day,
I really like that video of him and Eddie Hearn chatting when he's like, "You're a very mediocre boxer,"
Yeah.
and I don't mean that as an insult. And I agree. Like, if I was a mediocre footballer, I would take that all day.
Yeah. And
especially if it's not your trade to start with.
Yeah,
To be fair though, as well, it's his character that's promoting the fight. So
Yeah.
I don't think he thinks he's the best boxer in the world. He's just saying it, and it's making him millions of pounds.
We all know that.
Like,
you,
he knows
something
he's
like-
not. He wouldn't fight any of the top 10 in his weight class. Like, you get murked.
I saw a clip from whatever the Logan Paul podcast is called on TikTok, where he was talking to his brother,
Impulsive,
and his
it's
brother.
called.
That's it, yeah. And his brother was saying, "I'm gonna be the light heavyweight champion," and Logan Paul like looks at his real life brother, and he's like, "I've never said this to you before, but I'm gonna say it now. That's crazy."
The thing is with Jake Paul, there's a part of me now that thinks that these boxers, he was meant to fight Tommy Fury, and then he was meant to fight Hasim Rahman Jr., wasn't he?
His son, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that the fact that both of them are falling apart starts to make me think that there's a little bit of a backhander here. Like, we'll give you some money, we'll make out that we're gonna fight and whatnot, and then like, because Tommy Fury pulled out twice. And
I reckon it is going to be. They're trying to fix the fights behind closed doors, and the boxers are saying, "I'm not taking a dive," and then it falls apart.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines. But they've signed the contract where they can't let anything out, otherwise they won't get an X amount of payment. So a bit like it's probably turning into a bit of a WWE, isn't it? Really?
It is. Well, that
another legitimate professional combat sport. Right, you're never gonna fucking see anybody in F1 or UFC jump 40 feet off the top of a cage?
Absolutely incorrect. Khabib Nurmagomedov did it after he fought Conor McGregor. He jumped out of the cage
40 feet?
Well, it was like 15 feet to the ground, I guess.
It's not the same.
It was still in the flying eagle.
Was that because...
That was a real fight as well.
Yeah, wasn't that because were
won.
Conor McGregor's entourage giving his family shit or something?
Yeah.
Well, Khabib, after the fight, there was absolute murder before the fight in terms of back and forth, political stuff that got said about his dad. And after the fight, Khabib took his gum guard out and jumped out the cage and right into Conor's entourage and started fighting with them. And then people started jumping in the cage, hitting Conor. It was fucking mayhem. It was the maddest UFC event of all time. We want your votes. We want people's votes.
Yeah.
What do we think is the best out of those three? WWE, UFC, or F0?
There's no way you're putting F0 after WWE. No, you can fuck right off. All right, let's actually, before we go, let's do a little vote in which we think. Out of 3 we've done, what would you place it? Obviously, where would you go second and third? So what sport so I would go UFC, then WWE after F1.
I would go UFC, then F1.
I would, by default, F1, then WWE, because it's not a sport.
Stop living in the past, mate. It's a sport.
No. Well, in terms of votes, though, the UFC did the best.
Let's see what our public say, our listeners.
Exactly.